Hello everybody, we're back with Aunt Sissy and we are making peach preserves, and these are white peach preserves. I have one video already of the beginning of it, which just to go over briefly, so this is what it looks like now. We did, there was 4 cups of fresh peaches, and they're cut up into, you can see, so kind of chunks. They're not mashed up, these are just pieces of fruit. And so 4 cups of that, 2 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lemon juice, and then I put that on the burner along with a package of Sure Gel, which is pectin. So, and I stirred all that up and I brought it to a boil, and it had to come to a rolling boil. So as you're stirring and it still boils, that's a rolling boil. Once that came to a rolling boil, I added 5½ cups of sugar. And by the way, I'm getting my recipes from the Sure Gel or whatever brand you use. It comes with instructions, and that's pretty much what I use. You really shouldn't fudge on the sugar and cheat on it if you cut back on the sugar, like I do a lot of times with cooking. But with jam, preserves, jelly, it takes an equal amount of sugar and pectin to make it gel. Otherwise it will not gel, it will not set up, it will be runny, and you don't want runny preserves. Or runny jam or runny jelly. You might want to use it for like an ice cream topping, but if you're going to spread it on the proper way, if you're going to spread it on toast, you need it to be gelled up pretty good. So 1 package of the pectin. So, and don't cheat on your 5½ cups of sugar. So then you bring it to a boil again, and as it's boiling, it will come to a rolling boil again. That means you're stirring it and it's still boiling. That means spitting up in there, boiling. You stir it and you count for 1 minute. You can time it on a clock or count out loud, but 60 seconds, okay, so 1 minute. Then you take it off the burner, and these are sterile jars. These are 8-ounce jelly jars, and some of them I use are different. These happen to be quilted, they're pretty. It doesn't matter which ones you use as long as they are mason jars. They need to be proper for canning. They can't just be any jars that you buy off the counter and you reuse jars. You can reuse canning jars. These are mason jars. Okay, so they need to be the proper kind of jars. You inspect them, make sure there's no cracks on them, otherwise it will not hold a seal. And these are lids, they have rubber gaskets around them. These are Ball, you can get Kerr, there might be other brands as well. And the rubber gasket will seal it. And then the bands are over there, those are the bands that hold it on there tightly so that it will get the seal. So these jars I have boiled in hot water in a pot that had a little rack at the bottom so the jars aren't touching the bottom on the hot burner, because otherwise they can break. Okay, so this elevated them off of the bottom from the direct heat, but they boiled for about 10 minutes to sterilize them. Then I just keep them here hot, and then I get them out with this special tool. There may be other tools out there now, but these are grabbers, and I'll just go like that, grab it out, put it here. And then it's so hot the water will evaporate off. Then I have a funnel. Okay, so here's my funnel, and I'm going to use my ladle to get this out and pour it down in there. And the recipe says that this will make 8 cups. So when you put it in here, you put it till about, you can see on here, about halfway up of this. So as you're looking at about halfway up, and you see it comes down to the rim here, and that's a 1/2 inch of headspace. From the top of the jar. So you keep putting these in, and we'll see how many jars we have. Normally I just stop the video and I say, okay, we'll get back with you, but this way you can be with me and we can see exactly how many jars we're going to get out of this. And sometimes it's hard to judge exactly, and I have to take some out, but in this case it's doing pretty good. And you can do a test, by the way, to make sure your jam or preserves or jelly is going to set up. This I don't have a doubt, just even though this is white peach, I've done peach before, done a white peach, but usually it's a little bit different. So it can make a difference, your fruit, as to how much pectin it naturally has in it, as to how well it's going to set up. So you can do a little test by taking a little tiny jar and put just a little dab of the preserves or jam or jelly once you've cooked it and you're ready to can it. Just put a tiny bit of a tester in a little bitty jar or bowl, little bowl container. Put it in the freezer for just a couple of minutes, and you should be able to turn it upside down and nothing comes out. If it's sloshing around and moving, it is not set up, and you will have to remake your jelly or jam or preserves, which is a whole nother process. You can't just, I will show you that process sometime, but you don't do it the same way, but the instructions will tell you how to do it if it doesn't set up. So this, I'll keep it on going. So far we've got 6. I'm guesstimating one more. It's probably going to be 1.5. I probably won't get 8 out of it. Sometimes what I do is, these are hot, obviously, so be careful. These will be hot. But I'm trying to get that. Now, I'm going to now just scrape everything out. Put it in a container. And I'm just going to lift it up and pour it in. And just be careful. You don't want this to get on you. It is very hot. And gently put it in. And I won't have enough for a full jar, but I'll put it in here, and then what you can do if you have some left over, you can use it for your taster. So in other words, you can eat it and sample it. So that will have to go in the refrigerator because I'm not going to seal that up. Then I'm going to take a clean rag, and I'm going to just wipe. This rag is not used for dishes. It was clean, and I just am using it for wiping the tops of these just to get any jam off or preserves or any liquid, because it can put a barrier from the seal and you won't get a good seal on it. So you just wipe that down, and then these lids I have sterilized, put them down in the hot water. So I'm going to just lay them on. So in this case I'm getting 7 jars. Sometimes I get more, sometimes less. It just depends on, I don't know, it depends on different factors. So I'm going to just reach over here and get some lids, and they either come in silver or gold. Whatever I have is whatever I use. So I got 7 of these, and then I'm going to get my rag, because this is very hot, so just be careful. So I'm going to just twist it as hard as I can. I am starting to lose some strength in my hands, so it might not be, but as hard as you can. So you want to have a good seal on it, because this is going to keep it from coming out, and it will get you a good seal when it's processing. As you can see, it's really suspended nicely in there. You see that? The fruit hasn't all floated to the top. Sometimes when you make preserves, if it's not done correctly, if there's too much liquid in it, it can cause the fruit to float to the top, and then that is not a proper jam or jelly. Well, jelly wouldn't matter, wouldn't be any fruit, but a proper preserve. Proper preserves, they should be gently floating, suspended in the liquid. Okay, so now we're going to take our canner, which I've been using. I've been making some, oh, by the way, let me just tell one little quick thing. This is kind of important. Sometimes when you make peach jam or any kind of jam or preserves, you might have some foam. If you put a little bit of butter, the recipe says a half teaspoon. I don't measure. I just take a little bit off, stick it in there while you're cooking the peaches, the preserves, especially peaches. Strawberries will do it. This wasn't real foamy, but I did put a little bit. And you put it in there and it will keep it from foaming. Otherwise, if you can scoop the foam off, but then you lose some of your preserves. So I got this back in the canner, and this is a boiling water canner, as you can see here. And so you put it on the tray and you just gently lift up on it, put it in there, turn it on. And if you look in there, I want to show you there's a line, and I'm not quite up to the line. I like to have the water up to the line. So I'm going to take the lid off of one of these and get me something to scoop out some water. And I'm just going to add some water, hot water. You don't want to add any cold, but this is already really hot because it's been boiled. And keep my water up to the line, because there needs to be 2 inches of liquid, boiling liquid or boiling water up above your jars. So you can use this one for pints as well as jelly jars. Quarts you can use too, but it's going to fill it up. You won't have as much headroom, but I have done it with tomatoes. You can do tomatoes or fruit in quart jars if you're just doing canned fruit and not making. I wouldn't make jam or preserves in the big jars, quart jars. Now we're going to put the lid on it, and then what we're going to do Jellies take 5 minutes to process, jams take 10 minutes to process. So we wait until this boils and you can hear it moving around. And then I'll take the lid off to make sure it is boiling. Once it's boiling, then I look at the clock. I don't use timers, but if you want to use a timer, fine. So 5 minutes for jellies, 10 minutes for jams or preserves. And then we're at a higher elevation. We're here in the mountains of North Carolina, so about 3,000 feet. So in that case, and it does tell you, I will show you this on your little instructions here. It shows you for higher elevations, and definitely don't fudge on that, go by that. So as you can see, higher elevation of 1 to 3,000 feet is plus 5 minutes. That means in addition to your 5 or 10 minutes, depending on if you're doing jellies or jams, you want to add 5 minutes. We are just above 3,000 feet, so I'm going to do plus 10 minutes, okay? 3 to 6,000 feet is 10 minutes, and then it goes on up depending on where you're at. So you want to make sure that if you're at a higher elevation, then you're going to add minutes. So altogether, 10 minutes plus 10 minutes. So I'm doing these for 20 minutes. And that is, once it has started boiling, it needs to boil in there for 20 minutes. Then I will take the lid off, I'll lift it up, let them cool just like a minute maybe. And then I will lift them up and put them over here, and those are not the peaches, but these are some cherry. We just did cherry, but that will be what we'll do, and I will get 7 jars out of it, plus a little bit for tasting. And thank you for joining me for making peach preserves, and we'll see you next time.